For coming to our special meeting. We're going to go ahead and call ourselves to order here and into session. Our 3 p.m. special called meeting for what I'm going to tell you is the best budget that we've seen in this city in decades. And I say that from a point of humility as the staff has done this, the police officers, the union, the fire department, all hands on deck, and we really worked together from one department to the next to find the monies that we needed to improve the city. So we think our taxpayers will be greatly pleased when they see how this all comes to fruition next year. We are now called to order. We're going to go ahead and move on to item number 2 and ask Mrs. Coggins if she would read us into public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for participating in today's City Council meeting. Your input and your opinions are important to us, and we're glad that you're here to share them. At each posted meeting, we invite our fellow community members to address City Council regarding posted agenda items or topics related to city policy. Every speaker today will have 3 minutes to address the council. At the end of 2.5 minutes, a warning beep will sound, letting you know you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your thoughts. We have 2 public hearings today. If you're here to speak on one of those items, we would ask that you comment either during the public hearing or during public comment, but not both, in order to help us keep accurate minutes. It's your decision at which point in time you'd like to speak. Please remember, if you are discussing a topic not on today's agenda, council is limited under the Open Meetings Act in how they can respond. They can respond with a statement of fact or policy. They can put your item on a future agenda, or they can refer you to staff to discuss your topic. When you come to the microphone today, please state your name and whether or not you live in Amarillo city limits. Then you may begin speaking. First of all, we have Alan Feingold. And after Mr. Feingold, we have James Allen.
Alan Feingold, 2601 North Grand Street, within the city limits of Amarillo. I presume that the budget will be passed as is. There may be some modification of it, but on that assumption, I do ask of the council that you have printed copies of the entire budget made, that you let the public know where these copies are available, and that if you are going to charge a price for the copies, please also let the public know how much it is. I would like to speak to you today very briefly about the Community Investment Program. You may remember that this program was instituted, or I should say the latest version of it was instituted on approximately November the 19th of 2018, and that the program was set for the next 5 years. There were many projects that were listed under that program. I am particularly concerned with utility projects, that is, those which had to do with roads, transportation, drainage, and water and sewer. I am primarily interested in the water and sewer projects, and I think that the city should do a performance audit to see how many of those water and sewer projects listed in that community investment program were completed. For those that were begun but not completed, there should also be an audit to see how far along they are. And for those projects listed but not begun, the city should also note that, and that you be prepared to present to the general public approximately 2 months from now a summary of the projects in the old CIP. I think many of these are projects which were very important but either didn't get completed or didn't even get started. If so, you need to have them considered for your next community investment program, which I presume you will be planning this year and have available, probably during the next budgetary process that you will have in the year 2025. Thanks again.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
James Allen.
James Allen, resident of Amarillo. Mayor, council, city staff, this is a historic day in my opinion. So I would recommend, first of all, that you pass the budget. It's historic in the fact that this council should be recognized. You're the first council commission that has ever responded to the citizens of North Amarillo, North Heights, and have done your duty to provide infrastructure help in the history of the city. And I applaud you for it. It's long overdue. So if anything comes out of this meeting, that should be the message, that you have finally stepped up to the plate. Every commission in the existence of Amarillo has never done that. They've overlooked our citizens there. This council has finally done it. So I want to thank you personally. I want to go on the record for doing that. I'm also a member of the North Heights Advisory Association. I'm coming to you as a member, as a board member, not as a spokesperson for that organization. I do have some concerns with our working relationship with the city. My frustration has been that it's been very, very hard to work with the city staff. I'm not sure if we're supposed to be a collaboration organization. We're a nonprofit. We're volunteers, but it seems to me that we're almost a city department. We come up with projects. I'll give you an example. We came up with projects that we had to have approved back in May. We had them approved. 2 weeks ago, we were told, oh no, some of those projects aren't approved. We were told it came from the city manager's office, from Mr. Freeman and Ms. Storrs. So we've had 3 call meetings in the last 2 weeks. The last one lasted till 11:30 last night. We came up with projects. Just received a text that told us that the last one was not approved again by the city staff. So if we're coming up with projects that we consider that are going to help our community, but city staff says no, that they're not. City staff came back with an idea that we should buy dumpsters for our community. That's what you want us to do. So we need to know, are we working for the city, or are we supposed to be working to improve our neighborhood? So I really would like to have an answer on that. Why all the changes? Why the difficulty? We really want to work and be a good partner, but we need more clarity. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Mr. Allen. We'll get with staff, look into that, and then love to get a meeting with you, go over it in detail. Anyone else, Mrs. Coggins?
That concludes everyone that signed up.
Do I have anyone else here today that would like to offer public comment that's not going to speak during one of our public hearings? Okay, seeing no one, we're going to move forward to item number 3A. We have a public hearing on our fiscal year 24-25 budget. Mrs. Storrs.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We have a few items on the agenda here today, and I've got a couple of brief presentations that are going to look very similar to what we covered last week during the first reading of the ordinances for the budget and for the property tax rate. So I'll briefly go through these before these public hearings, and then I'll be available to answer any questions that you might have. So real quick, just wanted to go through some of the budget highlights from this year's budget. There's a lot of great improvements that have been added into the budget this year. First, we have funding for a new fire battalion chief. We also have funding for 3 new firefighters and a new intelligent liaison. This is a historical time for some of the largest salary increases that have been done for our police and fire departments. We do have over $22 million budgeted for street projects. And then some improvements to our solid waste services. So on that, we're looking to add a bulk waste alley cleanup program and also convert the remaining of those hand-picked up services to the polycart services. We also have increased annual funding for our parks capital improvement projects, and then $19 million in water and sewer projects and $13 million in drainage projects. A brand new thing this year was the $1 million that you all wanted to put towards public health for starting a new women's clinic. And then on here, and I apologize, I have a typo on here. It says 6.4 million allocated to a working budget. That number is 6.2 million based on the direction from last week, so very close to that. 6.2 million that's allocated. That's for us to work through this next year as priorities come up or things change. You all will have some flexibility in those working amounts, and it's about half and half between ongoing and one time. And then again for our retirees, increasing that COLA amount from a 30% COLA to a 50% COLA, which is a great thing for our retirees. Maybe? Okay. Perfect. So the numbers on the expense side, our current year approved budget is $531 million. If you actually reduce that by $31.4 million, you get to our proposed budget of $499.6 million. And so I went through a lot of the improvements that were in the budget, but wanted to remind you all the reason the numbers went down in total is because in the current year we had some big, large planned capital projects with debt service funding. The biggest piece was on those drainage projects. So it was almost $40 million in drainage projects. So that accounts for the biggest change that we're seeing year over year in the budget. So then again, this just outlines those improvements that we were able to put into this proposed budget for this year. So on the revenue side, how we fund all of this, in the current year approved budget, we had $495.5 million in revenue budgeted. And if you actually reduce that by $27.4 million, you'll get to our proposed budget for this next year of $468.1 million. And once again, that is because we were debt funding several capital projects, especially in the drainage area, that we're not doing this year because those projects are still in the works and are going to take us a few years to complete. So that actually pulls your revenue numbers down a little bit as well. So what we did see from a change on the revenue side was sales tax is up about $2.1 million, and we just got our sales tax numbers in for the last month of the year, and they were up again, and so we're in good shape, and we're on target to hit even this adjusted number for next year's budget. Property taxes, with the rate that's proposed, it would increase revenues by about $3.3 million just on the operations side. For environmental health, as a reminder, we restructured the fees related to the retail food permits to better align full cost recovery to users and make it fair to those users. And then on solid waste, we talked about the changes we're making, but to fund that, a single family residence will see about $1.28 per month increase on that bill, and our commercial customers are going to see a 16.7% increase on their bills. On water and sewer rates, we did implement a new tier for our commercial usage over 10,000 gallons and then no other water and sewer fee changes. On the drainage, there was no fee changes related to drainage, but as a reminder, y'all are looking to implement a payment in lieu of franchise fee and a payment in lieu of property tax over to the general fund, as our water and sewer fund does as well. So what is next? So last Tuesday, September 10th, we did the first reading on the proposed budget and we recorded the vote on that. And then today on September 17th, we're going to do a few things. So we need to hold a public hearing. And then in a couple of items, we will have you all vote on the second reading on the ordinance. And then we will also be working through the property tax parts as well. So we have all of our information related to the proposed budget posted out on amarillo.gov, and we also posted notices in the newspaper, and they're on our website about the public hearing today so we could inform our citizens to come out and have their voices heard. So are there any questions that I can answer prior to the public hearing?
Any questions, council?
Let me just ask you on the budget, to Mr. Feingold's question.
Yes.
Where is the budget? Is it available online once it's approved?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's on our website. We normally do not have printed copies of the budget. We actually don't even print very many copies anymore because so much is more electronic now. And so, yeah, it's all posted out on the city's website.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Any further questions? Mrs. Storrs,
Yes.
appreciate you. Now, you're good for item 3A and 3B at this point. Do you want to come back up for 3B as well?
I will. That'll be great. If y'all do the public hearing, that's the only action
Okay.
on this item. So thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'll open a public hearing. Do I have anyone here who would like to speak for or against item 3A? Mr. Skank, please come forward.
You're going to like what I have to say. I sat through that budget meeting with you guys, and I really I've watched several budget meetings from past councils and city managers, and you really dug in a way that people should recognize and admire the fact that you're getting a lot of these things done moving forward in a way that, and you did it with reducing our total budget down to that. Now, taxes are going to go up a little bit, but that's because of valuations. So I just wanted to step up and say thanks. It was a long meetings, too.
Thank you, Mr.
We
Skank.
appreciate you. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against item 3A? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Skank, for speaking on that. At this time, I'll close the public hearing and ask Ms. Storrs back up to the mic.
All right. On item 3B, we have set for a public hearing related to the 2024 property tax. And we have, as I mentioned, posted notice in the newspaper and on the city's website. So I'll quickly just go through this presentation. This just outlines that we are required to follow state law. Specifically, there were changes made through Senate Bill 2, and it does require that we calculate a voter approval tax rate, which is essentially 3% above the prior year's revenues related to maintenance and operations. It requires a mandatory election if you approve a rate higher than that. We're actually right before that deadline, but we're past that at this point. And then we must provide information to owners of property about it so they understand what is happening with their property taxes. So we have posted notice again, and there's several notices on the city's website related to this. So on our property tax rate, Mr. Skank did a great job kind of teeing us up on this. So our current year property tax rate is 39.195 cents. So the voter approval tax rate, which is the maximum property tax rate that can be approved by City Council without going to an election, is set at 38.723 cents. So, and that is also what we have built into the proposed budget at this point in time. So what that means, if someone had a piece of property that was $100,000 last year and this year, because the rate went down, it would technically, the property tax bill would go down. However, as Mr. Skank mentioned as well, those average values of properties have gone up year over year. As a reminder, the Potter Randall Appraisal District, which is an independent party from the city of Amarillo, is the one that assigns all of those taxable values. Most homeowners have seen a growth in those values year over year. So the average home here in Amarillo, based on this property tax rate change, even though it's going down since those values went up, they would see on average about a $5 per month increase related to the city's portion of the property tax bill. And as you all are aware, the city of Amarillo is only one portion of that total property tax bill. So on this slide, it also outlines what we just covered. This property tax rate will support all of our current service levels, plus the additional things that we covered on the last agenda item. And so, yes, by pulling that property tax rate down, you are receiving additional revenue, but it is at a sustainable rate in order to support everything that's built into your budget at this point. All of this information is out on amarillo.gov, and we did have our first reading on the property tax rate last Tuesday on September 10th. And today we are needing you all to conduct a public hearing related to your property tax rate, the 2024 property tax rate. Then another agenda item later today will be to do the second reading and vote on the property tax rate. And then there's a final item that is a vote to ratify the property tax rate. And when we get to that point, we do have motion language for all of you guys because it does have to follow state law. Are there any questions that I can answer on this one prior to the public hearing?
Any questions?
No, sir.
We always appreciate motion language. So,
Of course.
thank you, Mrs. Storrs.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll open a public hearing on item 3B. Do I have anyone who would like to speak for or against this item? Seeing nobody, we're going to close the public hearing. We will now move forward with item 3C. Mrs. Storrs.
Okay, so item 3C is the second and final, second and final reading on ordinance number 8152. This is related to your 2024-2025 fiscal year budget. At your spots, you do have a copy of the ordinance. My understanding, there was one slight change from what was posted online. There was some underlining that should have been a strike through on there. So the ones at your spots there are the final ordinance related to the changes for your budget for 2024-2025. And as I mentioned just a second ago, when you all do your motion language on this, there is some language at your spot. If you will follow that, because it is outlined in state law how we kind of work through that motion. So are there any questions that I can answer? And this is related to the budget.
The only question I have is, can you point out where the change was made in the ordinance?
Yes, so right there in front of you, it is on
Page 12.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Page 12, it was the section, hang on if I can get there too, under the recreational water fees, where it says no change, and it's talking about a certified pool technician refresher course. That was underlined before, and it should be a strike through. So it's essentially removing it from the ordinance. Is that correct, Stephanie and Brian? Okay.
That is correct. And this was updated in the online agenda backup over the weekend, so it's been out there for the public as well.
So everything at the dais is correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and everything that's online current is correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Kraft, anything further?
No, sir.
Okay. Mrs. Storrs, thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Does anybody have a consideration for item 3C?
I move for adoption of ordinance number 8152, adopting the budget for the fiscal year October 1, 2024 through September 30th, 2025 for the city of Amarillo.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on our budget, gentlemen? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Good job. Item 3D, Mrs. Storrs.
All right, item 3D. Oh, sorry, Stephanie, I pushed it at the same time. This is consideration of ordinance number 8153. This is the second and final reading related to the property tax rate for the 2024 tax year. This is all outlined by state law. They do require us to approve, you all to approve a budget, then a tax rate, and then ratify the tax rate. So in your, or at the dais there is also some agenda motion language If you don't mind, and if you want to make a change to that, I can help you with that, but otherwise, that's kind of outlined the way state law requires it. So this is approving your property tax rate, and that is composed of a maintenance and operating and an interest and sinking rate. Are there any questions that I can answer related to it? And there were no changes on this ordinance, is my understanding. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
I know we got a few hours in this one already, so I don't think there's anything we want to change at the last minute, but would ask council one more time, is there anything else? Okay. You have some motion language on item 3D that needs to be offered by a council member.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.38723, which is effectively a 5.63% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on item 3D. Councilman Place 1, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Place 2, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Place 3, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Place 4, recorded as absent. And mayor votes in favor with an aye as well. Motion passes 4-0. Okay, Mrs. Storrs, back to you.
All right, so this is the final thing. I know everyone's sad to put budget behind us, but this is the ratification of the tax rate and the budget. So this is the final step in the approval process for the 2024-2025 budget and the tax rate for 2024. So at your place, there is also some motion language that we would appreciate if you would follow that. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions on item 3E, gentlemen?
No, sir.
No questions.
All right, thank
Would
you.
ask for a motion.
I move that we ratify the budget and tax rate as adopted for fiscal year 2024-2025, recognizing such budget will require more revenue from property taxes than did the budget adopted last year.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on item 3E. Do we have any further discussion on this one? Seeing none. Councilman Place 1, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Place 2, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Place 3, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Place 4, recorded as absent. Mayor votes in favor as well with an aye. Motion passes with a 4-0 vote. Congratulations, gentlemen. You are now the proud owners of a new budget. We will move forward to item 3F. Mr. Andrew Freeman, if you'll come up here and walk us into our meet and confer agreements.
Sir. Just a little bit. All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. Historic's been throwing out a lot today, so it's probably going to continue into this next couple of items based on the agreements we're bringing forward today. I'm going to cover a few different slides just to cover the history. That's something we've covered in previous council meetings, more for the benefit of the public. But meet and confer is found in Chapter 143, allows cities to consider and enter into agreements with associations that represent police officers and firefighters. So there's a provision that preempts any statute, ordinance, or civil service rule if there's a conflict between the two, so it really allows cities and the associations to negotiate terms that benefit both parties. As far as the history here in Amarillo, we have the Amarillo Police Officers Association as the sole and exclusive bargaining agent for the police officers for APD, and then we have the Amarillo Professional Firefighters Association as the sole and exclusive bargaining agent for the firefighters of the City of Amarillo Fire Department. So those are the only two organizations that can represent those groups. So they are who we work with on these agreements. I want to also give a shout out and a thank you to the association. We've got Toby Hudson, president of the Police Association, and Todd Peden, president of the Professional Firefighters Association. I want to thank them and their team for all their work on this. It's been a really great process going through it with them. We've also had a really great city team. Myself, Laura Storrs, Stephanie Coggins, Mitch Norman, and we also had Deputy Chief Kuba and Ohlert kind of tag teamed on the fire side, and then Assistant Chief Jimmy Johnson on the police side that worked through this agreement going all the way back to February. So it's been a long process, but a very good negotiation, respectful the whole way through, working through interim city manager search, 2 meet and confer negotiations at the same time. Very challenging in most instances, but with this team, the respect for professionalism was always there. Nothing really contentious. So I'm really proud of both sides, the way this process is laid out. I think it'd be envious of all cities across the state of Texas once they find out how well we were able to negotiate and how well we've been able to go through these priorities and get this document in front of you today. So just wanted to make that statement. As far as a little background, Amarillo Police Officers Association currently on the 2nd multi-year agreement set to expire this month. Professional Firefighters Association currently in the 1st agreement approved, really specifically just to handle the fire marshal's office that we took care of last September. So theirs is also set to expire this month. Agreements typically focus on base wages, supplemental pays. You've got benefits in there as well. You can adjust the hiring process, promotional process, as well as grievance and arbitration procedures that you can lay out how you want to handle those things between the union members and the police department or the fire department. So next, I'm going to take them individually. We'll start with the Police Officers Association meet and confer agreement, present all those details, give you a chance to ask any questions. I'll also ask the president if he wants to come in and make any statements or comments. If y'all have any feedback you want to provide to him, then you can act on that agreement, and then we'll kind of roll into the firefighters agreement after that. But did want to mention, it's really a statement piece, I think, for the city council to consider this one. I was adding the dollar amounts up just in salary and incentive pays. You're talking almost $9.5 million. Adding a few more positions in the budget puts you at just over $10 million of ongoing public safety investment. And then that's not including the CIP for public safety. So well over $10 million of investment in 1 year is proposed today. Major focus on public safety. So as far as the timeline negotiation with the Police Officer Association, we kicked off middle of February with our final meeting August 6th, so a total of 7 meetings. Their association and their membership did vote with a 96% approval as presented. And I did want to mention all those meetings that we held, they're all posted, all a public process for anyone that wanted to attend throughout. I know we had many council members attend off and on through those meetings as well. Part of the timeline, of course, we did have kind of a gap there between June and August. What we found going through this process, it's the first time we've done a meet and confer after state law changes that really impact city budgets. So it worked out well to wait for y'all to have your budget process, for us to have certified values so you knew exactly what you were working with and able to help us firm up those negotiation points as far as that annual cost involved. So it's really a new approach that all cities are kind of have to adjust with. Part of what I'll talk about as well is instead of doing multiple increases, laying them out for a few years, we're going to come each year and focus on salaries, incentive pays, compensation, so we can really focus on those things instead of trying to predetermine what our property growth is going to be, sales tax growth. And that's only possible with the relationship that we've built with these associations, that they trust us and know we're going to come together each year and sort this out, not that you have to try and get everything preset 3 years in advance. Because this way, instead of a few percentage, maybe we have a good year and we can put more into it than we could have done if we pre-negotiated. So I think that's worked out really well. This is just a reminder of all the discussion topics that ended up on the table for a negotiation. I've shared this with you in the past. So this is what we went through, those multiple meetings to try and negotiate changes to the agreement. Since police had a multi-year agreement 2 times already, is a lot of kind of tweaking the language, making minor improvements, adding some new things here and there to go with it. But the final agreement highlights are now shown on your slide here. We cleaned up that existing language, updated the promotional examination requirements, tweaked the AL or vacation buyback program a little bit, revise a drug testing policy. We've got the pay raises in there, 6 to 16% depending on rank. So I've listed the salary ranges there on the screen so you can see what those increases look like. We also reduce the steps on the pay schedule. So instead of taking up to 10 years to kind of cap out in those ranks, we've reduced it down to 5 to make us more competitive. So after 5 years, you hit that high end of the range. We've also increased field training officer pay, added fitness pay that previously was comp time. So now there's a financial benefit involved. We've also added language that we're going to continue to work through with the association as far as a recognized holiday bank. Instead of dealing with the holiday schedule set the way it is, this way they have a bank and they can just take holiday when they choose to, because quite a few of them obviously work 24/7, so they're going to have to work on those holidays, and this way they can still keep their available time off. As I mentioned, we've added language to review base wages and supplemental pay sections in August 2025. So each year we're going to come in August, right after we have budget workshop, have our certified values, and know exactly what council's working with. And then the new agreement would expire September 30th, 2027. So this will be a 3-year agreement. When I get to fire, that one's going to be a 2-year agreement. So we will not end up in the same boat where we're opening up both contracts the exact same year. So that should be easier on the negotiation teams, but both will look at salaries and pays each year.
Can Mr. Freeman, before
Yes, sir.
we skip off that page,
Absolutely.
that recruit at $70,000 a year,
Yes, sir.
can you explain how that works if I want to go and put in my application at the police academy?
Yeah, absolutely. So since we have our own academy process twice a year for the police department, what the recruit rank will do is this is what you're paid to go through our academy. So just coming off the street, you know you have a salary that you're being paid at this level just to go through and learn how to become a police officer and get through the process. And then we are paying through that process, helping you getting you trained, making sure you can pass the test, and then become a full-time police officer in the next step.
So that $70,000 right there might be the most impactful thing that I think we can do for our public safety department as a whole, especially when you're looking at law enforcement. So I just want to say, like, wow, great job. You know, the old saying, like, teamwork makes the dream work. You know, I've got to say, you guys, you worked with such good professionalism and leadership amongst yourselves. This council definitely was not afraid to push for this, but it took the staff and it took both unions, both organizations to come together to work for this. And it did take a little bit of trust in saying, like, we want you to invest in us and we're a good investment. So you may not know it, but I want to guess, what was that starting pay 8-10 years ago?
Whoa. Was it the 50s?
22% less?
Yeah, 22% less.
So one thing that did happen, and I want to shine the light on it, we as this present council, we get to showcase the fact that we're making this 1-year investment and we're making this big move. However, previous council worked along with APOA, and they put in a large increase over those 4 years, I want to say. Was it 4-year agreement, Toby? 3?
3-year.
So over on those 3 years. So a continuation of the good foundation that they laid before us to see the need in our public safety and in law enforcement, and then couldn't be more proud of how well we've worked with our fire department as well as our fire union, our local. So thank you to staff for working hard on all that. You guys did a fantastic job, and I just want our public to hear, you put an application in, you get accepted. It's $70,000 for us to pay you so we can train you and invest in you. So I hope that goes a long way. We got 37 open positions, and I hope that the saying is not for long.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, so 22% less was about $55,000.
54 grand, 70 is very, very impactful.
And so the 70,000 is for recruit, but even I think more important is the laterals and the rehires that could come back an officer, depending on their experience. If they've got 5+ years experience, they'll be at 90,000. to come back and
So if I
return
happen to
work.
be somebody living in California right now, listening to this, I can laterally transfer to the great state of Texas and end up somewhere, close to $90,000 to hire on.
That's right.
Great.
So that is the final agreement highlights. Let's see. I think I've lost it a second. There we go. So that's the end of the presentation on the police. I don't know if Toby wants to come in and say a few words, or if he's content back there, but I'll let him say a few words, and if you have any questions, happy to take those. Otherwise, we're ready for a vote on the police association, and then we'll get to the fire department.
Thank you. Afternoon, Sergeant.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. I'm just going to come up here and tell you guys thank you to this council who obviously worked alongside with staff and supported first responders all the way through this process. You guys were certainly driving force behind this, and we're very grateful. I also want to thank the staff, so Mr. Freeman, Mrs. Storrs, Mitch Normand, and Stephanie Coggins. We met a lot over the last 6 months with a shared goal, really, of recruiting the best and retaining the best that we've already got. And those two things, those two pieces were both equally important for what we had going on with all the openings that we have recently. So I thank you guys. I thank the citizens that you guys represent. They have always supported us. It's a blessing to be a police officer in Amarillo, Texas. It's not like a lot of other places, and we always have the support of our citizens, and I thank them very much for that. These guys work really hard, and they pour their hearts and souls into this job, and so I just want to thank Amarillo, you guys, and staff for investing back into us. So, again, thank you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do I have any remarks from council? Man, we back our blue and we back our red as well, and every other first responder and component of those departments that have to work together for us to get to live in a safe society. And so we want you guys to know this is not a one-off, man. You have our support. We're going to continue to pull for you guys. We're going to continue to look for improvements and efficiencies so that we can continue to invest in our entire public safety apparatus. So, Mr. Freeman, you're up again on item 3G. Thank you.
So if you want to go ahead and vote on that resolution, now's a good time.
Oh, that's right.
and then we'll move to fire.
You do want to vote on that and then do the next one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great. Yes, sir.
So I apologize. I thought we were doing the presentations on both. So would ask for a motion on item 3F.
Okay, is there a resolution number?
I move to adopt resolution number 09-17-24-1.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for item 3F. Do I have any further discussion on this? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with a 4-0 vote. Yes, you guys can clap for that. Mr. Freeman, you're up now.
All right, let's move to the Firefighters Association. So timeline negotiations for this one also kicked off in February, Valentine's Day, and met 6 different times. Final meeting was on August 6th. Their final tally was 100% approval. I know they're very proud of that accomplishment. And again, all meetings were open to the public on that one as well. So these were the discussion topics that we had, the staffing model, adjustments to how long you had to be in the hostman rank before you could promote. Talked about leave buybacks, washer and dryers at each station was important. We had a handful of stations that still didn't have washers and dryers. This was one item that's referenced in the agreement, but we were able to find current year funding to cover that one. So that was a good thing. Association business leave, we discussed cancer screening, of course, pay raises and incentive pay, and then a few existing policies. So this is the first meet and confer agreement where we could really get into those existing policies that we wanted to formalize and make sure they stayed in place via this agreement. So I will say this was probably the most organized association to deal with because they've been waiting for this one for a while. So we were very meticulous going through, and they had everything ready to go. Very nice notebook of all their items. So it was nice to work with this team on their items. As far as the final agreement highlights, of course, we've continued the fire marshal's office language in there. We added that continuous staffing model for the fire suppression division based on the number of seats and making sure they had enough staffing to accommodate various leaves and making sure we've got enough staff because you're always going to have leave for training, whether someone's out on vacation, et cetera, to make sure that staffing is there to make sure we can staff those trucks. The 5-year requirement to be eligible for promotion to the rank of driver was added. That one also ties to the rank steps on the pay schedule. We went from 5 years to 10 years, so you have more room for growth in your salary within the firefighter rank. We've maintained the annual leave back provisions, but we also adjusted it so it's not based on years of service, but it's based on number of hours accrued. So some of those that hadn't meet that 10-year requirement yet were able to qualify. The requirement for installing the washers and dryers. The association business lead bank, being that this was a new process, wanted to make sure and formalize that they could donate that leave to go toward association business, something that we've had in the police agreement for a while now. Maintaining all pre-existing incentive, longevity pays, clothing allowance, and then we had overtime policy, added that requirement to fund early detection cancer screening, which is something this council has already funded, but this makes sure the requirement stays throughout the agreement. Added additional points for certified paramedics. Added that same language to review wages and compensation in August 2025, and then the new agreement would expire September 30, 2026, a year earlier than the police association, so we have those staggered. But the key point is those pay raises of 8% to 19% depending on rank. So a firefighter now starts at $60,000, can earn up to $85,000, and then the top end up to the battalion chief up to $121,000. So very good agreement that we're proud to bring you today. Happy to answer any questions, and then I'll also ask Todd to come up and say a few words.
Questions, gentlemen?
Nope.
Question? All right.
Thank you.
I just want to come up here and thank you guys for the hard work that you guys have put in. I'm not as good of a speaker as Cole is on the fly, so I wrote my thank you down, so if you don't mind me reading this. First and foremost, I want to extend my gratitude to the City Council, City staff, the Amarillo Professional Firefighters Association Executive Board, and Meet and Confer committees. Thank you all for your dedication and hard work throughout this negotiation process. This contract is a monumental achievement and was only made possible through the commitment and collaboration of everyone involved. I also want to take a moment to thank the members of the Amarillo Fire Department. The service and dedication to our community is inspiring. This contract is not just about numbers and agreements on paper, but it's about improving the recruitment and retention and quality of firefighters. It's about enhancing the lives of our firefighters both on and off duty, ensuring that they have the support they need and continue serving with excellence. This contract lays a strong foundation for the future. It is a step forward in positioning Amarillo firefighters as some of the best in the state in terms of quality of life, attracting top talent, and fostering a supportive environment for culture and future firefighters. Together, we are building something that we will not only benefit today's firefighters, but will propel the department toward for years to come. Thank you again for everyone who played a part in this historic achievement. I'm incredibly proud of what we have accomplished, and I look forward to what lies ahead. Thank every one of you. I also want to just a little bit more on staff and working with our groups. It was a great process. You know, we go to trainings all the time, and we hear lots of stuff about how contentious these agreements are and how argumentative they are, and this was smooth and transitioned great. So we appreciate your leadership and theirs, and just we want to thank you guys for everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate your leadership, sir. Any remarks from council on either of these?
None for me. Thank you guys for all you do.
We just want to show you guys that the first responders, we appreciate that. Public safety is paramount for our city, and we We appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. I think we're all glad it went well, but we're also glad it's done. So plenty of other things we can focus on now. Item 3G is up for consideration, gentlemen.
I move to adopt resolution number 9-17-24-2.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes with a 4-0 vote. Can we give everybody a round of applause here? Thank you. Well done, guys. We're not applauding ourselves, man. We're applauding our community. This is everything that you build a community and a strong community on. It's foundational, and I love that we've made this much progress this quickly. So thank you to everyone for being here today. We do have a press conference right after this, but I need to adjourn this meeting before we start that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. You're adjourned.